Hey everybody, it's me, your Uncle Herbie, and welcome to another episode of Wisdom After the Fall. Today I'm going to discuss, let's just call it how to be a lot happier than most of us are. I can't help but notice that so many people are so unhappy. And I think it's because we've lost our bearings and we've lost all ability to maybe hold things in perspective. So I'm going to give you a few tips today on how to wake up every single morning without anything on your mind other than what fun thing am I going to do today? Now, of course, the enemy of good is perfect, and the prescription I'm about to lay out is not perfect, and you will not be able to do it right away. This is one of those things that, like anything else, like getting into shape, like being good at anything, it's going to take practice. Practice makes perfect. But I'm going to give you 3 steps. This is a 3-step program to mental clarity and stress-free existence without worry or strain. Okay. And that's genuinely how I live my life now. And I used to be, just to share with you, and I'm not talking about the criminal thing. Let's just put the criminal thing aside for today and just talk about I was an entrepreneur from essentially 1980 until 2012. And during those many, many years, those 32 years, I stressed a lot. I cannot tell you how many times I would get up in the middle of the night and worried about something that I couldn't do anything about, and sometimes even go to my office to try to basically just move things around and feel like I was getting traction on it. And I obsessed. And I watch our broader culture, and I look at young men and young women, and I think young women in particular putting a lot of stress on career and a lot of stress on achievement. And when they don't reach it, a lot of resentment and bitterness comes out. But I don't want to go into any broader topics. I just want to help you today. Let's just get right into it. Step number 1, don't obsess. Obsession and wisdom cannot exist in the same space. You can't obsess over something and have wisdom about it or about pretty much anything else. Even if you have one obsession that just beyond all reason obsesses you, it tends to almost like a vacuum suck away your atmosphere and leave you just naked, exposed to your emotions. Okay. Now, what do I mean by obsess? I'm going to use an easy example. I'm just going to go ahead and default to easy. Donald Trump. And before I go into this, and this is to explain obsession, and before I go into this, I want you to listen to me carefully. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I could not vote for Donald Trump because I am a former felon, and therefore I am not MAGA, and I am not a Democrat nor a Republican. If I were to register to vote today, I would register as an independent. They all turned my stomach. For years, I was very libertarian, but the libertarians have begun to turn my stomach. If you want to learn what doesn't turn my stomach, by the way, quick commercial message, pick up a copy of A Radical Reset. This is the book I wrote. It's on Amazon, and it talks about what I suggest to do about our government and our democracy and our country and our culture. And it's a new system called anti-politism. And the reason you've never heard about it before is I invented it. Think of it this way. It's democracy the way it was originally practiced by the Greeks. A Radical Reset on Amazon by me, Herby Kay. That's Herbie with a Y, not an I-E, even though I know the scroll that's going underneath my words right now spells it I-E because that's just what the AI thinks Herbie is spelled like. Not perfect yet, AI. Anyway, let's move on. So let's talk about Donald Trump. There are people obsessed with him on the left and the right. Now, on the left, the people on the right call it Trump derangement syndrome, okay, TDS. And the MAGA people, from the progressive side, to them, they all seem obsessed with, for example, the Democratic Socialists of America, which I'm going to put aside today. I'm just going to concentrate on Donald Trump. Most of the obsession and most of the hatred of Donald Trump comes from 2 sources. One, it comes from the traditional mainstream Republicans and Democrats who just hate the ground he walks on. And the other group are all the followers of those people, and a lot of them believe a lot of things about this man that simply don't stand up to examination. But the problem is, and this is the difference between obsession and simple disagreement. I disagree with Trump on tariffs. I disagree with Trump on many of the actions he takes insofar as getting the government involved in private business, taking stakes in Intel, things like that. There are many other things I could go into, but this is not a political podcast, that I don't agree with Donald Trump. But I don't hate him. I see him for what he is, which is a disruptor. And disruptors always draw a lot of fire. So the people in the mainstream who hate Donald Trump tend to be not deranged about it and make a strong case. They go through, they tick through, he's messed up this, he's messed up this, he's messed up this, he's messed up this. And they'll make a case. That is not the sign of derangement or obsession. That is simply the sign of strong disagreement. You can have I strongly disagree with tariffs, but I don't hate Donald Trump. And I think that it would be really kind of enjoyable to sit down and spend time and have dinner with him, just because I think he's probably hysterically funny. And like all public figures and like all human beings, he's deeply flawed. But as a disruptor, it doesn't surprise me that he elicits a lot of strong feelings, because he's probably the first genuinely disruptive president we've had in this country since Andrew Jackson. That's a historical aside. Again, I'm not saying good nor bad. There are people to this day who can't decide if Andrew Jackson is good or bad, and that's an argument for historians. But I'm just pointing out there's a difference between strong disagreement, which are those people in the mainstream that really don't like Donald Trump or anything he stands for. And they also talk about, the gross things he said, which I don't like. I was appalled at the way he commented after Rob Reiner died, was murdered by his own son and his wife. Rob Reiner's wife murdered by his own son. That was a clunky way of putting it. For those of you who have never been with me before, I speak extemporaneously. I'm not reading a script, therefore I'm going to do things like that. Go with it. It's more natural, I think. Anyway, but obsession is different. Obsession, when you talk to somebody who's obsessed, if I said, what do you think about Donald Trump? Well, what about this one? What they'll do is, no matter what issue I'll put up about something they believe in, let's say that they say, we want Medicare for all. And I say, well, the reason that President Trump is doing this, but, oh, Trump, what about this? And they'll bring up something, a red herring, completely unattached to reality, that has nothing to do with anything. And they continue to believe things that have been clearly debunked. If you still believe that, for example, Donald Trump was placed in office by the Russians and there was some Russian connection, despite all the disclosure and evidence to the contrary, because you simply will not, what's the word I'm looking for? You simply will not concede objective reality, you're possibly obsessed. And if you cannot name a single good thing he's done, you are obsessed. I'll give you, an example. I think the worst president in American history is Woodrow Wilson. I think he's Satan. If there were a Satan, he would be Woodrow Wilson. I can go into all the reasons why, but I can also tell you that that's why women have the right to vote. It's not like he did everything wrong. He did a lot of things wrong. He sowed the seeds of destruction, not a discussion for this podcast. But I can still tell you good things. Let me be more recent. I was going into, that reveals my interest in life. Let's talk about Barack Obama. I think Barack Obama, on balance, was a terrible president. Okay, and I'm willing to debate a lot of things, but I think as the first black president and as a symbol of the, I think, collapse of racism in this country, despite what everybody says, I think he was an important president, even though I think he was a bad one. And I can discuss his programs and what he did and what he didn't do, but I don't hate him. If I saw him on the street, my reaction wouldn't be to hate him. If I met him in person, I would greet him as Mr. President and I would show him respect. And the other thing that, the reason I'm not obsessed with him is, except in a discussion like this, I never think about him. If you're thinking about Donald Trump every day, if you are absolutely obsessed with the horrible things he's done, if you watch all those podcasts that pick things out of context about what he says and accuse him of this, that, and the other thing without any basis in objective fact, how do you know there's no objective reality? How do you know you believe bullshit? Because you won't even fact check yourself. If you won't fact check yourself, you are obsessed. Okay? If you won't bother to go online and, for example, find out what he really said at Charlottesville, you're obsessed. If you won't go check out the discrediting of the Steele dossier, you're obsessed. Okay? I'll give you another subject. There are people obsessed with the climate. You can't have a discussion with them. You can't discuss science. You can't discuss the ICC report. They go immediately into slogans. And if you say, fact check what I'm saying, they won't. If you won't fact check your own position, you are obsessed. And obsession cannot exist in the same place as wisdom. That's step one in this process to live a stress-filled life, a stress-free life. You don't have to like Donald Trump and you don't have to like Barack Obama. You just have to not obsess about it. And when you believe something, When it really bothers you, what you need to do is say, you know what I think I'll do? I think I'll go on and use that AI that everyone's talking about that I don't even have to type anything for and ask them if it's true. Or ask her, or ask it, or ask whatever, gender you or you want to assign to it. Is there trans AI? I don't know. Anyway, wouldn't that be funny? I don't know how you could write that into a comedy, but it just makes me giggle to think about it. Trans AI, it just occurred to me. Anyway, this is what happens when you speak extemporaneously. Let's move on to the second thing. You get the obsession question. Don't ruminate. Rumination is the gateway to mental illness. I am not a big believer. You want to get off depression meds for the rest of your life. You want to live a happy life and wake up in the morning with a realistic expectation of happiness every single day. Stop ruminating. Okay, I of all people can tell you that. I feel, for example, enormous guilt and shame about what I did to go to prison and the people that I hurt. But I don't allow myself to ruminate. I allow myself to feel great sadness over it. There's a difference between feeling sadness over what I've done and ruminating about it. I don't replay it in my mind. That's rumination. I don't keep replaying it over and over. Now, when I first got out of prison, I was on the edge of suicidal and ended up taking psychiatric. I went to see a psychiatrist at the VA. She was excellent, by the way. And she's the one who really taught me to stop ruminating, basically by saying out loud every time I start doing it, stop. Now, that's what I do. Now, I'm not perfect, and like all human beings, I'll slip back into it. And the minute I find myself slipping back into some awful thing I've done, and I would like to undo, and I start ruminating about it, I literally say out loud, stop. The other thing you can do if you don't want to do that in a crowd of people because it'll make them all jump and they'll wonder who you're talking to is wear a rubber band and snap it. That was another suggestion. I'm sure you've seen it with other habits like smoking cigarettes or whatever. To snap a rubber band on your wrist every time you feel the urge. Do that when you start to ruminate. The minute you start replaying, a bad relationship, a divorce, a court case, someone you hated, whatever it is that you're ruminating over and you're playing it over and over, you can't replay a game that's over. So spending hours and hours just ruminating obsessively, step 1 and 2 both together, is not, how's it working for you? And I know millions of people do it. That voice, that reel that plays in all of our heads, we all have it. The question is, do you constantly pay attention to it, or is it just background noise? The trick to being happy is to make it background noise. The third step, and I did write them down. Oh, that's why I look over here, just to make sure I had my bullet points. I didn't miss anything. And this, I think, I saved for the last because it's the most important thing. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. There are problems you face every day that are easily solved by either buying something or fixing something. So if you have a leaky sink or a leaky faucet or a leaky shower, you fix it. If you're out of pet food, you go to the store and buy it. Those are the problems you can solve. Those are solvable problems. But there are a lot of things in life that aren't so easily solvable, particularly when human beings are involved. So I want you to remember this as carefully as I can say it. It's better to do nothing than to be busy doing nothing. Or, I'm going to translate that by the way, is the central tenet of Taoism, which is where I took it. I'd love to tell you what an original thinker I am, but I'm not. It is better to do nothing than to be busy doing nothing. Or, as I have taught my children, and the young men in prison I met, and people along the way, and people always love this advice. I even give this advice. People sometimes drive in my car when I do my ride share driving to make my ends meet, and because I'm older, and we'll start talking, and they'll start to get a feeling that maybe I know what's going on, and so they'll say, give me a piece of advice, and here it is. Here's the piece of advice I would give if I had met you just for a few seconds. 99.99% of the time, the best thing to do about anything is nothing. All you do is complicate your life, okay? Especially in human interaction. Someone at work is driving you crazy. There's someone that you're very attracted to, and they showed some interest, but then they didn't, and they're driving you crazy, and you're playing over and over, and you want to do something, so you feel like maybe you should pick up the phone. This is what drives, for example, people, especially young men, after a date, to call women obsessively and drive them away, okay? Don't do it. Whenever you feel the urge to do something that isn't a clean fix, when you can't just buy something or fix something to make it happen, or build something, okay, or acquire something, whatever it might be, if it isn't a clean fix like that, if it's a human interaction issue, and you feel like gee, maybe I should call, or maybe I should write, or maybe I should text, or maybe I should email, or maybe I should tell them this. Maybe, for example, and maybe you have a daughter who's gaining weight. You don't tell her she's fat, okay? You shut your mouth. You're not going to do any good. She knows, okay? This is just a good example. You keep your mouth shut. You don't say one word. She knows. She'll deal with it on her own. She's an adult, okay? Don't try to fix it. You will only make it worse. You'll alienate her. You'll estrange yourself. These are how we complicate our lives. We make more problems by trying to solve problems than we solve, because there really are no solutions, only trade-offs. And the best thing you can do about any human-related problem is let it work itself out on its own. Someone at work said something weird to you, and chances are they don't even remember. Do you know what other people think about you? Nothing. The same thing you think about them, 99. You're thinking about yourself 99.999% of the time. Stop trying to fix things. When you feel the urge, don't. Okay? And then, last piece, this is not part of the 3 steps, just a general piece of advice. Do not live to work. Work to live. Now, look, if you're Elon Musk and you're one of those people, you're not watching this podcast anyway, so I'm not speaking to you. You are self-motivated. You're a different kind of individual, male or female. You're on your own path. You don't need me to tell you anything. You're not listening for any kind of advice because you got the tiger by the tail. God bless you. This is for everybody else, okay? Particularly young women. Career is not the most important thing. Career is there to provide you the means to live your life. As I spoke to earlier, I'll say it again. Our purpose on this planet is to do one thing and one thing only: replace ourselves. And then have a little fun with the time we have left afterwards. That's it. You can ascribe lots of other things to it, but that's it. The more that you complicate that, and the more you take away the focus of life, which is to live your life, when you live to work, when work is the most important thing, when people come to you and the first thing you want to share is some work thing and not what's going on with your children or who you're dating or who you're planning to form a family with, or whatever stage of life you're in, you are not in a healthy place, my friend. Okay? Do not live to work. Work to live. And that will wrap up today's podcast. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Don't forget to pick up a copy of A Radical Reset on Amazon by me, Herby Kay with a Y. Like, subscribe, share. I'm not going to do that pop-up thing. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You know how to do that. And let's see. What else? Other things that I want to say? I don't know. Just have a beautiful day. I was going to say, Patreon and buy me a coffee. If you feel like you'd like to support this podcast and kick a little in and help me stop ride sharing, that's my big goal in life, to stop ride sharing, not to make great wealth. I'm past that in my life. I'm 70 years old. I don't have that much time left. I'm not trying to build an empire. I'm just trying to earn a little redemption by doing good. If you go to Patreon or buy me a coffee and you become a very low-level supporter of this podcast, I'll send you a free copy of A Radical Reset. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Have a beautiful day. Where's my little controller? And peace out.